This video is going to be a little bit different. It's going to be in two parts. The first part is going to be my regular review, and the second part is going to be my analysis of some themes in this film. Frank is about an aspiring songwriter named John and what happens when he joins this band led by Frank, who's a very talented but kind of mysterious musician. He's played by Michael Fassbender, and he wears this big head mask all the time. Frank was inspired by another character from Britain called Frank Sidebottom, and he was played by a comedian called Chris Sevi. He was popular in the 1980s, but besides the likeness, there's no relation. This story is fiction. This film is a very special film because it touches on so many themes that artists or musicians can relate to. John, played by Domhnall Gleeson, he's the son of Brendan Gleeson. They were both in Harry Potter. You can look that up. So John's a songwriter, and he wants to write songs that a lot of people will like, but he's having difficulty. Instead of really putting his head down and grinding through the writing process, he likes to tweet to his followers about all the work he's getting done while he's actually having a severe writer's block. We see his tweets appear across the screen, and there's always a difference between the awesome things he's tweeting and what he's actually doing. Not unlike real life Facebook and all the other social media where you kind of just put your greatest hits or you stretch the truth a little bit. Something's happened and he gets a little bit lucky and he manages to join Frank's band as the keyboardist. Frank is definitely a bit off-putting. We immediately wonder who he is and why does he wear that mask all the time, but it's hard to read him when he doesn't have a face. Or so you would think. Frank actually wears his emotions on his sleeve. He manages to convey a whole range of emotions just through his body, how he moves, and the subtle movements of his head. It's another really impressive performance by Michael Fassbender. Frank is a comedy, so it's actually a really funny film, especially when you see all of these super dedicated artists and all of the crazy stuff they have to go through in order to kind of spark the creative process in writing good music. But this film isn't for everyone. The narrative is a little bit unconventional, and all of the characters are very quirky. When I was watching it, I initially felt like I was wasting time. I'm sitting here watching all these people try to write a song. They're just all over the place. They have so many random ideas. They go through so many strange rituals, and it doesn't seem like they're going anywhere or coming up with anything too good. And I'm thinking, why am I watching this movie about other people going through the creative process when I could be being productive and trying to come up with something myself? It felt like it wasn't going anywhere. I felt frustrated. And then it dawned on me, maybe that's the point. Trying to make things, there's a lot of tunnel vision, there's a lot of frustration, and from the outside looking in, it just looks like you're going in circles. But that's what can happen when you become fully immersed in trying to create something from scratch and trying to create something new. I think that's what the movie was trying to say, and that changed my perspective. Once again, Frank can be weird, but you feel like you're part of the band, just kind of hanging out with them. And it gives one of the most spot-on representations of what it can be like when you're trying to be creative. I give Frank a B+. At this point, I wanted to talk about the two themes that really resonated with me, so minor spoiler alert. The first one relates to Mozart. Bear with me. Frank shows two very different types of musicians. We have John, who's pretty good at playing the keyboard. He's a decent songwriter, but he's not the musical genius that Frank is. Frank, on the other hand, only really cares about the music. He wants to write the best song he can, and he doesn't really care about what other people think. There's a scene where John and their band manager each share a song that they've written. John thinks both of their songs are actually really good and that they should put that out there, but the band manager reminds them that compared to Frank, they're just very average. And this isn't just the band manager being humble. Their stuff is not as good as Frank's. John initially doesn't want to believe it, but he eventually has to accept that he's not really on the same level as Frank. This reminded me of the film Amadeus. In Amadeus, a composer named Salieri is an accomplished and successful musician in his own right, but he spends his whole life envying Mozart and his talents and his accomplishments. This resonated with me because I think this is something everybody struggles with. We see these people that are so talented and so great, and we all think maybe we're destined for greatness, maybe we can be that great. But another part always wonders if we're actually any good at what we do. Frank's story is not the narrative that most of us relate to. John's is. He's the most of us who are very good at what we do, but who aren't Mozart. Regardless, a man can dream. The second theme I wanted to talk about is mental illness. Frank is mentally ill. He has childlike fits, he's unable to control his emotions, and of course, he wears a mask everywhere all the time, even in the shower. This is not the behavior of a well-balanced person. So you might counter, he's so musically talented. Maybe that's the price you have to pay for greatness. There's this popular view of the tortured artist who might have had a big trauma in his life. Maybe he's addicted to drugs, or maybe he's like Frank and he's just a little bit off. In one scene, John meets Frank's parents and asks them what they think about about the fact that Frank is mentally ill, but his illness seemed to have resulted in such musical gifts. Frank's parents' reply was, "It never helped him. If anything, it hindered him." This was a very poignant point because I think I and other people that luckily haven't had to deal with mental illness might hold very subtle stigmas about it. Because unlike infections or a virus, mental issues are different because it's all in your head, and it's something maybe you can will away. But this film reminds us that mental issues are a real sickness. Like the flu or a broken arm, it can't be so easily fixed. And to even hold the romanticized view that it could be a source for inspiration is missing the point. Who knows what Frank could have accomplished if he wasn't ill and didn't have to deal with any mental breakdowns? It's hard to say. That's my review and analysis. Let me know if you have a different view or another interpretation of the film. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you want to see more film reviews and analyses. Peace! The signal is about a group of friends investigating a signal, and you find something unexpected.